Hi, this is Phil, Dirty Drive Away. So I'm coming back to you today with another informative information style video, and today I'm going to be revisiting connections. Now if you'd have flicked through my channel, you'll probably find that one of my earlier videos that I've done a couple of years ago was on connections, different types of connections, and the way you can obviously connect your trigger to your hose and your lance to your trigger, etc, etc. And you will obviously come across, if you have, you probably would use some form of quick release somewhere along the lines of your washer. You've probably heard the 1/4 inch quick release or the 3/8 quick release. But this is basically, it's going to be a video just to try and explain the differences between the different types of quick release. And also, I may have mentioned in my previous video, I've not really gone back to look at it, the quality in these connections. You can buy these connections from various sellers, eBay, possibly Amazon, but they're all different quality and you do get what you pay for. So we're going to be looking at that very shortly. But first of all, a lot of people do tend to get confused with the BSP sizing. So to start off with, like up here, you'll see this one here is a 1/4 inch BSP male quick release, and this is a 3/8 inch male quick release. Now the actual sizing, i.e. the 1/4 inch or the 3/8 inch, has absolutely no relation to the actual size. If you was to convert it to like a metric size into millimeters, does not equate. It is purely a BSP. It's down to do with the sizing of the threads, and not actually, if you try to convert it to metric, it wouldn't measure up the same. So it's completely different. Don't get confused thinking a 3/8 BSP equals, you know, so and so in a millimeter metric size. It doesn't equate. It's purely to do with the thread sizes and the way that the threads are cut. So in a previous video, I showed you the way I connected my lance to my trigger. I have one go-to trigger. It's a low trigger force gun made by Sutner. And basically that is my go-to trigger. So rather than having multiple lances, multiple triggers, I just have one gun and I can connect my different lances into my gun as required, just by simply taking the lance off the end. Now previously I used to use these connections here, which are a common Karcher fitment. They're a screw fitment, and you would have basically one of these on the end of your trigger, and these would be screwed into the end of the lance, and then basically you bring your lance in and then you just screw it in, do your work. If you want to change it, you just unscrew it and switch to a different lance. Now these worked really well for the time I had them. The problem with anything is obviously there's O-rings in here. You've only got a single O-ring and a very small, possibly each connection is different. You may have a very small, you probably can't even see it on the camera because it's tucked away down there. You've got a very small seal and along with the O-ring. The problem is anytime you keep connecting and disconnecting this kind of stuff, the O-ring is going to wear, and eventually you'll just find that these won't tighten up together properly, or it end up leaking. It can even be something simple like you may have bought a cheap connector off of eBay, and the taper on the end of these fitments, the male fitments, doesn't quite fit properly. Some of these inside, they're also coned. They've got the slight taper on the inside, so they kind of meet up. They can be a bit hit and miss, and if you find one you get it works, keep on and just basically change out the O-rings as and when they decide they're going to start to perish. So that's basically that. My go-to choice now is, I don't think it's new, but it was basically, I think the company Q started it, or they used to use it a lot, which is basically this style here, using a spigot and a quick release connector. Now these are bloody awesome. They make life so much easier. You basically have one of these screwed onto the end of your lance. These are normally always stainless steel, so they're not going to rust, they're not going to corrode. And you have a gun. You may be able to convert an existing gun using a cheap connector off of eBay, but these dedicated Sutner/Q connectors use a different a different thread size in the gun. They actually use a 3/8 inch thread in the gun, whereas traditionally they're a 1/4 inch gun connection, so your lance could screw straight into the end of your trigger. With the newer guns, they use a 3/8 inch connection, so your lance won't just screw in, but they come with these on. And basically, this is a quick release fitment. Inside, when this screws into the gun, there's a little O-ring on the inside. It's not visible from the inside. You'd have to unscrew this. There would be an O-ring here, and basically, you have these stainless steel spigots. They go in and they lock in. And when this is in the gun, that locks in nice and tight. You can use your lance. You can actually, when you're off the trigger, you can actually use this as a swivel, so you can turn the lance. Makes your life so much easier. Pull it in, disconnect. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I love these. Get these in stainless. These are absolutely mint. They are brilliant. I say these to buy themselves. These are about 40 quid. And Pucker ones are these, Sutner ones. These are about 20. So they're not cheap, but because they're stainless, they don't rust, they don't corrode, and they're brilliant because there's nothing that you can't get the grit in the little bits and pieces. You can just wash them off with a hose, plonk them in, bit of WD, absolutely awesome. Really brilliant bits of kit. That's my go-to. I've been using them for a couple of years now, and I would not go back. So that's them. We'll come back to them a little bit later. So moving on. Like I said, this is your smallest. This is your 1/4 inch male quick release in brass. Now I've done things before, explained the difference between brass and zinc plated steel. Brass doesn't corrode, it doesn't rust. The only downside with brass is that it is a little bit softer than steel. So when these are inside the female equivalents, you'll find that the hardened steel bearings inside of these female quick release couplings will actually start to dig in to the inside. This is a brand new one, so you can't see it, but it will start to dig in around here where the ball bearings start to bite in. Fortunately, these are all new, so I can't really show you what I mean. But yeah, that's a 1/4 inch. And if you actually, if you're looking at any of these on like eBay, they would, like for this 1/4 inch, they're all standard size. They're 1/4 inch. But the actual diameter across this face here, across the circumference of here, is 11.6 millimeters. So you'll probably find it will say 1/4 inch BSP, 11.6 millimeters, and that's what the 1/4 inch, the small 1/4 inch ones are. Now, it gets a little bit more difficult when you get into the realms of the 3/8. Now you get two types of 3/8 inch BSP connections. You get a standard and you get a MIDI. I tend to, because I make up like the rinse nozzles and stuff for people, I always ask what connections have you got, etc, etc. Some people don't know, but you'll tend to find if your washer is up to around 200 bar, you'll probably find that your washer is using these MIDI connections. Now if you measured across the circumference of there, the MIDI ones are about 14.8 millimeters. So if you looked on eBay or something for them, that would say 3/8 inch. It may say MIDI, so 3/8 inch MIDI, 14.8 millimeters, and that would be the across the outer of the. Let me show you. Got my trusty caliper here. So if it's going to focus, you basically measure across, and that's there, 14.8 millimeters. Alright, whereas you'll find the standard ones, which are these ones, you may find on slightly higher pressure machines, maybe sort of 250 bar upwards. If you look at the difference of them side by side, they are clearly different. Obviously one's a lot fatter, there's the standard one's a bit more dumpier, but these actually measure about 19.5 across the face. So if you measured it across there, it'd be somewhere around 19.6, 19.5. You know, it's not something around that kind of size, and obviously they're a little bit shorter. If you put them side by side, you'll probably find they may be a smidgen, roughly this. Yeah, the MIDI ones are a tad bit shorter, but yeah, they are completely different sizes. So you need to make sure the difference between the ones you've got, and you'll also tend to find. So this is the female version, the female coupling. Let me just see if I can zoom in a little bit as we're a little bit far away. Let's. Bear with me. Right, so this is the female coupling, and you will tend to find that on the 3/8 version, the MIDI versions, they only tend to have a single O-ring inside. So if you can see, you might just be able to see in there's only one O-ring. Whereas the standard versions, which is obviously this one here, this is actually a stainless one. I don't particularly like stainless in these, purely because any decent ones, and I mean like decent manufacturers such as Tima or anything like that, these are wicked money. And to be fair, they're quite expendable. But in stainless steel, they are so much money, they're just really not worth it. This is stainless, this pair costs about 20 quid. It's purely a backup, just in case I ever need one. Normally I've got a couple of Timas in stock, but this is actually a triple O-ring. The Timas tend to be only a dual O-ring, so they have 2 O-rings. Obviously the more O-rings, people think, oh, they seal better. Yes, they do, but it also makes them harder to get in and out because it's got to go through the 3 O-rings. So yeah, they're the stainless, and you can see the difference in the size. But if you're ever measuring it up or anything like that, you always want to measure the female and not these males, because these will obviously be quite a bit bigger and they won't relate to what it comes up with online. But you'll see, like with the MIDI size, the O-ring only actually kind of seals this section here, whereas if you had the 3/8 standard, because there is 3 O-rings in it, it tends to focus. It tends to seal up sort of here and here, and then sometimes one at the end, depends on how many O-rings you've got. But predominantly, if you've got a twin O-ring, it'll be sort of down here and then up here before the ball bearings bite in. Right, so that's basically the fundamentals behind the sizing. So always make sure you are ordering up the right. You're going to order the right size, because you'll see this. Like I said, zoom out a little bit. Because even though that's 3/8 inch and that's 3/8 inch, and I can hear you saying, but they're different sizes. It is down to the actual thread and not the physical size of it in a metric. Because you'll see that's a 3/8, and these two are clearly different sizes. Yet they will actually screw into each other because the actual thread is exactly the same. Yet they're different size holes. So it's all down to the thread. So make sure you're ordering the right ones. Like I've said, brass, zinc plated, stainless. Brass is corrosion resistant, it won't corrode. They can take the high pressures, but like I say, because they are softer and they use hardened steel ball bearings inside, and you'll see it in the stainless ones as well, those ball bearings are hardened steel. So when they go into the when the male goes into the female under the extreme pressures at the 200, 250 bar, it's really biting on the edge of these male connectors, and the brass tends to wear. Like I said, it wears around the edge, and then it can make the coupling quite hard to disconnect. And also you'll find sometimes, obviously, when, like I said previously with the other connections, when you're constantly putting something in and out, you know, these where's the stainless one? That's a stainless one. So when you're constantly doing this in and out all the time, it wears those O-rings inside. And I always say to people, don't grease these. The last thing you want to do is put grease in these. It acts as a grinding paste. So if you get sand in here, it just grinds it to pieces, and you can destroy one of these connections in next to no time. So do not put grease in here. If you want to use some form of lubrication, WD-40, some Teflon spray, silicone spray, anything that's a spray that's a wet lube and not a thick goo like grease. So WD-40 is my go-to. They're just, it's just easy. You can buy it anywhere. Whereas the grease it just gunks up in there. You get sand and grit and everything all around the outside of these ball bearings. You get sand build up when you're doing block paving, and it just turns into a massive grinding paste. And you can destroy one of them in next to no time. So WD-40 is your best mate. Right, moving on. Hopefully try and get this under 20 minutes. Quality. It's going to be, I always say to people, when it comes to most things with jet wash, if you buy cheap, you buy twice. You can buy things off AliExpress, you can buy them on eBay. If you go to a reputable supplier who supplies these, I mean, Damien at Q Washers, have a look on his eBay page. He's got a YouTube channel as well. He supplies most of my Tima connections. If I want anything decent quality, I'll go to Damien at Q Washers. It's just not worth pissing about buying cheap shit on eBay. I've been there, I've done it, I've been doing this long enough to know that if you buy cheap shit stuff, it's not going to last you 5 minutes and it'll go completely tits up when you're on a job. You'll be in the middle of a job and you'll get a leak, all because you bought some cheap shit Chinese connection. So trust me, I've been there, I've done it, I've tested them, and I'm going to show you the difference. I probably went through this previously on my other video, but I'm going to show you the difference in quality. Now, I don't have a Teamer female on me at the moment, but I do have a Teamer male alongside. Let's get rid of these for a minute. So these are the three main. These are the main sizes that I use, and these are all the same, but they're all made by different people. This is a Teamer. This bullet male, people call them different things. These are about 7 or 8 quid each. So they're not going to break the bank. I've normally got a few of them just knocking around the shed just in case they start to wear away. This was the stainless one that come with this. I think I got this pair of stainless connections for about 20 quid. And this is just a general run-of-the-mill zinc plated sort of cheapie that I bought on eBay. You know, if you're making up stuff like rinse down nozzles, because they're not under high pressure, these are perfectly fine to use. But you'll find once you're dealing with anything in and out, like on your gun, for example, on your hose, you want to use good quality stuff. So let's get down to it. Let's see if I can show you the difference. Right, this Teamer, for example, and let's compare it. It's not a massive difference on these ones, but basically the Teamer has got a nice rounded edge just here where the O-ring will basically come in, and this stainless one is a lot sharper. It's almost like it hasn't had the edges taken off. I mean, it's not going to cut your finger, but it's not got the nice little chamfer on the end. So basically, if you keep using something like that that's got a sharper edge on, it's going to obliterate your O-rings. Again, with the cheapie, this one's not too bad actually. You can feel it. It's got a very, very small edge to it, but nothing that's going to destroy too fast. I have seen these and they've been absolutely atrocious. They've been so sharp that you know they're gonna destroy your O-rings. But yeah, these are both the same. These are both zinc plated steel. The Teamer females, they tend to be chrome plated brass, which are very, very good because you've got the corrosion resistance of the brass, but you've got the chrome plating on top to make it look nice. You will see more of it. I mean, for example, these two here. These are both the same, apart from being a female male in the end. These are about £2, but you can see the difference in the machining on the end. This one's got a much wider bore than that one. It's not going to make any difference to your flow rate because in a day your lance is 1/4 inch. So you can see a clear difference. This one's got a nice rounded edge. That one's got a slightly more sharper edge, but it's not sharp. You know, it's not going to cut you. But there's subtle differences between them. The main ones I find is going back to these spigots. Now, good quality Sutner ones. These are about 20 quid. Stainless. Nearly all of these are stainless. Just grab one of my lances because these are attached to the end of my lance. And another one. That's okay. See if that's going to focus in. It's in the end of my lance, so it's a bit heavy. So I've got 3 of these here. This one here is a genuine Sutner. It has got, come down here, it's got ST stamped in it. That's a Sutner. Very, very well made. I haven't got much room for. Very well made. Nice and smooth all the way around. It's almost like it's got a polished finish. No worries. Nice rounded edge on the end. It's not going to destroy my O-rings. This one was probably one of the better cheapies. I think this was about 12 quid on eBay. Again, hasn't got the polished finish, but it's got quite a nice It's got a nice sort of rounded edge on the top. So that's you know, it's a relatively nice one. And then this one I bought just, I don't know, spur of the moment. I thought I'd try it. I'm not going to say it's shit because that's not really fair on the seller. I'm not going to tell you who sold it. But basically, it is nothing like a Sutner. It's been made on a obviously made on a probably on a lathe, and the edge, you can't really see it properly, has just been I'm trying to think the technical term, when they part it off the machine, it's got a complete flat end. Now I had to stick this in the end of a drill and just touch a file on the end of it just to create a little bit of a radius on the top, but this was completely flat. And it's really sharp on the end. I can't really show. Is it going to focus? It's really sharp. It's not a particularly great finish. I say without taking that edge off, it would just destroy your O-rings. But it works. It's a little bit tighter to get in. But in reality, these were a tenner, and you know, if you're not using it on something that's going to go in and out every single day, they'll be okay. If it's going to be your go-to connection and it's going to be in and out of your gun all the time, just invest in the better quality ones. They're normally all stainless, but you find that they can be a little bit harder to get in and out. But yeah, that is it. That's predominantly all your connections. I don't have any of these 1/4 inch ones. I don't tend to use many of them. I've only got them on like the Whirl Away. But yeah, these are your run-of-the-mill connections. You'll probably find these somewhere on your jet wash. And if you haven't got them, they're well worth fitting. Some people have this style on the end of their hoses to connect into their gun. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but again, the O-rings will eventually start to perish. People ask me hose is leaking or my gun, my lance sort of thing is weeping. It's normally always an O-ring. You know, you can buy the replacement O-rings on eBay, like the ones that go into the teamers. I've bought a bag of them on eBay for from an O-ring supplier for like £6 for 100. You know, it's just not worth messing about with. I always keep them on the van just in case. Pick them out with a little pick, a little bit of WD-40, chuck them back in, you're good to go. So that is it. That is the sort of basic background on connections, different types. And yeah, just be wary of what you're buying. If it seems too cheap, it probably is. I'm not saying that all cheap stuff is bad. You know, there are people out there that can manufacture really good stuff at a fair price. You know, if you are buying Sutner stuff, obviously, you know, you are paying for the name and the quality of it. But you just know that if you are fitting anything like that that's made by a reputable company, then you know that it's going to work and it's going to give you plenty of years of life. So long as you look after a lot of things. You know, if you need to keep them lubed. You know, like I say, don't use grease, but WD-40 or anything like that is your best mate. And you'll find that they'll last you a long time if you take care of them. Right, that is all for me. Happy cleaning. Bye for now.